Hi, I'm Steve Brown, former Peachtree City Mayor, former Fayette County Commissioner representing Peachtree City. I'm running in tandem in this year's 2025 municipal election. I'm running in tandem with James Clifton. He's running for post 4 and I'm running for mayor. We'd love to have your vote. And one thing we've been pointing out in these video segments is how bad things have actually gotten in Peachtree City. Now let's talk about the council members starting to strike back at the mayor because they can't take the tyrannical behavior anymore. Mayor Learnard, she revised what's called Ordinance 1218, and that effectively gagged certain council members, barring them from placing items on an agenda. Now, you can imagine this. The mayor changed the ordinance so that her own council members could not place an item on the agenda. The move was specifically intended to silence council members Suzanne Brown and Clint Holland. They had to receive a majority vote of the city council just to place an item of concern on an agenda. And that was effectively cutting them out of the legislative process because they never gave them the 3 votes. Well, the tide has finally turned at the September 4 council meeting, and Councilman Holland made the motion, and here it is.
I've always had a problem with Ordinance 1218 since the day that it was passed. And so I will move to that we place an Ordinance 1218 on the September 18th City Council meeting agenda to restore it to its original form prior to the amendment version introduced by Mayor Leonard and Councilwoman Johnson, acknowledging that the revised ordinance had imposed unnecessary constraints on our elected officials, myself and the rest of the council here, our ability to freely submit agenda items, thus limiting the very representation our citizens expect and deserve and voted for. I therefore, by reinstating the original version, we can reaffirm our commitment to transparency, accountability, and the democratic principle that every council member must have equal access to advocate for the best interests of the voters who elected them. And that is my motion.
Now, naturally, if you know Kim Learnard, the mayor opposed this repeal of the ordinance that she created to silence her colleagues, seeking to preserve her authoritarian control over the council. She began with familiar tactics that we're used to if you watch the meetings, even suggesting that council members should feel thankful for having their authority curtailed. You can't make this stuff up. In essence, she expected them to remain silent and absent from the meeting agendas. And it's worth noting that the previous fair and inclusive process that she changed had been in place for over 65 years prior to her administration. Let's watch her comment.
First I've heard of this. We passed a new ordinance early in 2024, allowing council members who have a majority support to put something on a meeting agenda. I think that's more generous than what I've seen in most cities. So it was a very thoughtful ordinance, and we passed it in city council. So in my opinion, we're adequately making sure that we don't bring forward agenda items that send our staff members on a wild goose chase, only to discover later that maybe there isn't a majority of support for that measure. So we have set up right now a system so that any council member who wants something on a future meeting agenda can certainly get there if they have the majority of support. And I think that's our job, is to talk to one another about what's best for Peachtree City. So no, I don't support revisiting this issue.
Now, can you imagine? She is trying to convince the audience at that council meeting that it's absolutely fair and the right thing to do to silence her colleagues on the city council. And that's exactly what she has done for the better part of 2 years. So people who were elected at large by the voters, 2 council members, cannot get an agenda item on an agenda because she keeps blocking them because it takes 3 people to do it. That's just horrendous. Now, Councilwoman Laura Johnson, she was once part of the original effort to sideline her colleagues from the agenda process. She was voting along with the mayor. Well, at this particular meeting, she was forced to concede that reform was necessary, and she, I think, is aware that Mayor Learnard's public support is crumbling. Let's watch her comments.
I definitely understand the issue with this ordinance. And I would say personally, there's things about that ordinance I don't like. I don't think it's a perfect ordinance. And I think it's important for us as elected officials to, when there's a possible issue, to be willing to go back and see where, we can possibly make things better. I wouldn't say that I would naturally, if the motion is to put it back exactly how it was, I can't say that I will be for that exact ordinance right now. But I do think it is worth a discussion. I would personally be okay with having that discussion.
So everybody, except for the mayor, understands there are significant problems with not allowing people who are elected at large to be able to represent their constituents by putting their items of concern on a meeting agenda. You'd think that was common sense, right? You would think that was common sense. Everybody but the mayor gets it. And with the tension high, Mayor Learnard calls for the vote. She's unwilling to relinquish the changes that had silenced all her council members' voices. And she ended up standing alone on the other end of the vote. Let's watch it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. No. Motion carries. Thank you.
Now, they say you can't fight City Hall, but I think the question we should be asking is, why are we having to fight our City Hall? We're proving otherwise, though. The public outrage is rising, and Mayor Learnard is clinging to a sinking ship. The ordinance change will be up for discussion at the October 2nd City Council meeting. And District 4 candidate James Clifton and I are committed to repealing the underhanded changes Mayor Learnard has made to our ordinances and land plans. Let's go back to the way we had it, where everything was fair and we didn't have a dictator working as our mayor. Early voting begins October 14. And we would be truly honored to earn your vote for a city council that truly serves its constituents. And let's get back on track with Peachtree City. Go to www.ptcbackontrack.com. We want you to compare. Please go compare the websites and see the difference. Thank you.